question I get quite a bit from people regarding training is during the Tour de France or during 3-week Grand Tours in cycling, why don't the riders rest on the rest days? Why do they go out and ride their bikes 2 or 3 hours on the rest days? Some even doing intensive short intervals during that period. And it's a great question. This is an example of the practice at the professional level has sort of gone beyond what science understands. This is an example of why coaching from a World Tour team actually exceeds what scientific literature has been able to figure out. So the short answer there is we don't know why it doesn't work to just lay in bed all day on the rest day, but we do know that it doesn't work at all. If you are a rider who's extremely fatigued, and actually the worse the fatigue, the more you need to train on the rest day, which is, again, counterintuitive. But we know if a rider is extremely fatigued, that if they spend all day in bed, that the next day after the rest day, they will be horrible and will suffer in that race enormously. A great example of this is in a Tour de France about a decade ago, David Miller, who was on our team, had a day where he spent the entire time, the entire stage out the back of the Tour de France, and he barely made the time cut. And why did that happen? Because he decided he was going to spend the entire rest day in bed. So the way we go about it on the rest day on the team is the riders, we encourage them to consume a lot of liquid because inflammation and retaining liquid becomes a real problem on the rest day. So flushing their body with as much water as possible is very helpful. We encourage them to wear as much clothing as they can handle on the rest day ride. Why is this? Because we want them to sweat. Even if it's hot out, we want them to sweat as much as they possibly can, keeping that fluid turnover in the body as much as possible and not retaining sodium and fluids in the body. So drink a lot of water, sweat a lot, just keeping that turnover going. And then we recommend them to ride 2 or 3 hours. And even throw in a few little efforts. And that usually keeps their body in the rhythm of the race. But again, is rhythm of the race a scientific term? No. Do scientists understand why this works? No. But we know that when you're training very, very hard, that if you take one day absolutely off and then try to train hard the next day, it won't work. You cannot rest on rest days. Now, that doesn't mean don't ever rest. Because clearly when you come out of the Tour de France, you would need to take a week off on the bike, do something different, or a hard training phase for yourself. But in a short little one-day rest period, if you want to keep the momentum up and you want to be effective in your next day's workout, complete rest on the rest day doesn't work.